So I'll go ahead and share my screen. We were supposed to start from verse 13.17. Okay. Okay, is everyone able to see my screen?
Yes, bro.
All right. So we were discussing about the Gyeya, the Paramatma. So let's start with this verse 13.17. We completed 13.16 yesterday. So everyone can repeat after me. Avibhaktam cha bhuteshu
अविभक्तं च भूतेषु
vibhaktam eva cha sthitam
विभक्तम् एव च स्थितं
bhutabhratra cha tat gyeyam
तत्र च तज्ज्ञेयं
grashishnu prabhavishnu cha
विष्णु च
avibhaktam cha bhuteshu
अविभक्तं च भूतेषु
vibhaktam eva cha sthitam
विभक्ता एव च स्थितं
bhutabhratra cha tat gyeyam
भूतभात्र च तेज्ज्ञेयं
grashishnu prabhavishnu cha
विष्णु विष्णु च
avibhaktam cha bhuteshu
अविभक्तं च भूतेषु
vibhaktam eva cha sthitam
विभक्तम् एव च स्थितं
bhutabhatra cha tagyeyam
भूतभात्र च तज्ज्ञेयं
grasishnu prabhavishnu cha.
विष्णु च
Anyone else would like to recite?
अविभक्तं च भूतेषु
Avibhaktam cha bhuteshu
भूतेषु
विभक्तम् एव च स्थितं
vibhaktam eva cha sthitam
भूतभार्त्र च तज्ज्ञेयं
bhutabhatra cha tajkeyam
ग्रसिष्णु प्रभविष्णु च
grasishnu prabhavishnu cha.
अभिभक्तं च भूतेषु
Avibhaktam cha bhuteshu
विभक्तम् एव च स्थितं
vibhaktim cha sthitam
भूतभद्र च तेज्ज्ञेयं
bhutabhatra cha tajkeyam
ग्रसिष्णु प्रभविष्णु च
grasishnu prabhavishnu cha. Anyone else? Okay, let's start with the synonyms. Avibhaktam,
अविभक्तं
without division.
without division.
Cha,
Cha
also.
also.
Bhuteshu,
Bhuteshu
in all living beings.
in all
in all living beings.
Vibhaktam,
Vibhaktam
divided.
divided.
Eva,
Eva
as if.
as if
as if.
Cha,
Cha
also.
also.
Sthitam,
स्थितं
situated.
Situated.
Bhutabhatra,
भूतभार्त्र
the maintainer of all living entities.
Maintainer of all living entities.
Cha,
च
Cha
also.
also
Tat,
तत्
that. Gyeyam, to be understood.
to be understood
Grasishnu,
ग्रसिष्णु
Vishnu
devouring.
devouring
Prabhavishnu,
प्रभविष्णु
developing.
developing.
Cha,
च
Cha
also
also.
translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Although the Supersoul appears to be divided among all beings, he is never divided. He is situated as one. Although he is maintainer of every living entity, it is to be understood that he devours and develops all. Purport: the Lord is situated in everyone's heart as the Supersoul. Does this mean that he has become divided? No, actually, he is one. The example is given of the sun. The sun at the meridian is situated in its place. But if one goes for 5,000 miles in all directions and asks, where is the sun? Everyone will say that it is shining on his head. In the Vedic literature, this example is given to show that although he is undivided, he is situated as if divided. Also, it is said in Vedic literature that one Vishnu is present everywhere by his omnipotence. Just as the sun appears in many places to many persons, And the Supreme Lord, although the maintainer of every living entity, devours everything at the time of annihilation. This was confirmed in the 11th chapter when the Lord said that he had come to devour all the warriors assembled at Kurukshetra. He also mentioned that in the form of time he devours also. He is the annihilator, the killer of all. When there is creation, he develops all from their original state, and at the time of annihilation, he devours them. The Vedic hymns confirm the fact that he is the origin of all living entities and the rest of all. After creation, everything rests in his omnipotence. And after annihilation, everything again returns to rest in him. These are the confirmations of Vedic hymns. Yato va imani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti yat prayanti abhisam vishanti tad brahma tad vijigyasasva. This is Taittiriya Upanishad 3.1. नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे. So I'll read the translation one more time. Although the Supersoul appears to be divided among all beings, he is never divided. He is situated as one. Although he is maintainer of every living entity, it is to be understood that he devours and develops all. So I hope everybody had a good Nirjala Ekadashi yesterday. Uh, okay, so in this section, we are discussing where Krishna is describing about Gyeya. What is it which is to be known? So this section started from verse 13.14 where Krishna had said, everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, heads and faces. He has ears everywhere. Like that, he basically describes the various senses of the Lord are present everywhere. Now, most of the verses given in this section are similar to what is given in the Svetashara Upanishad. The Svetashara Upanishad is the most personalistic of all the Upanishads. So personalism comes out very, very clearly in this Upanishad. So there are verses like he has no eyes, but he sees, he has no ears, but he hears. This almost exact verse, that is also there in the Svetashara Upanishad. So now this verse was the so we when we are talking about the verse 13.14 where Krishna had said, everywhere are his hands and legs and everywhere are his eyes and faces and ears, so this verse actually had become the source of perplexity for Advaita Acharya, because what does it mean if, everywhere are its hands, everywhere are its legs? So the impersonalists, they try to interpret it metaphorically by saying that Nirgun Nirakar Brahman becomes Sagun and Sakar everywhere. But Baldev Vidya Bhushan explains, so Baldev Vidya Bhushan, we all know who he is. Prabhupada quotes him many times in his purports. So he explains that the concept of Sagud Brahma explicitly as differentiated with Nirgun Brahma is not talked about anywhere in the scriptures. So So the Vaishnava understanding is that Prabhupada explains that this refers to Paramatma. Paramatma exists everywhere. He exists in our hearts and he exists in all the all the anus and parmanus also. So in the atoms and the molecules. But Advaita Acharya was not very satisfied with this understanding. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained to him the inner depth, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came in his dream and explained to him and glorified him first. So what was his understanding after that? So he explains, Advaita Acharya explains, actually wherever a devotee glorifies him, glorifies Krishna, Krishna is there to hear it. Yatra gayanti mad bhakta tatra tishthanvi narada. So this is from the Vishnu Puran. Wherever a devotee is there to offer bhoga, Krishna is ready to accept the bhoga. Wherever a devotee bows down, Krishna is there to receive the obeisances. So in that sense, Krishna is available everywhere to the devotee. So this verse where 13.14, that demonstrates the universal omnipresence and availability of Bhagavan. So even if we take it to refer to Bhagavan, Krishna is present everywhere. That is how devotees can, so you all may have heard about the word Manas Puja. Anyone knows what is Manas Puja? Any idea about what is Manas Puja?
Offering prayers in the mind.
Actually, Manas is an authentic way of worship, and Prabhupada also talks about it in the Bhagavad Puran. He says that this is a authentic, bona fide way of worshipping God. Obviously, the person has to be at that level where a person can, in the mind, offer prayers to, or basically offer worship to Krishna, not just prayers. Prayers everybody can offer. So that is how actually, because the Bhagwan is present everywhere, Krishna is present everywhere, that is how devotees can do Manas Puja. And what happens when we do Manas Puja? Actually, we please Krishna and Krishna reciprocates with us. And many devotees in the previous classes had actually narrated different pastimes of different acharyas, how, they had performed Manas Puja, in their mind, and actually they could see the results of it, at the physical level. One of the pastimes, I believe, Vallavi Gopinathji mentioned, or Padmalochini Mataji, I forgot. But this Acharya is there, so he's cooking something for Krishna in his mind, and then he puts his finger in it. In his mind, he puts a finger to check if it is too hot, and actually his finger gets burned. So so all this is possible because Manas Puja is a bona fide way of worshipping. So one time devotees, in Toronto, they were doing book distribution in Harinam. So that is like long time back. In Toronto city that time, there was a sheriff and there was a mayor, and both of them were at loggerheads. So the sheriff had given permission for Harinam and distributing books. Now in many towns, when you have to do such big things, you have to actually get permissions. So I don't think in Hartford and all it is required, but many towns actually it is required. You can't just go and do things without getting permission from the town. So the sheriff had given permission for Harinam and distributing books, but he had gone out of station for some purpose. So the devotees were actually at that time, they were doing Harinam, they were dancing, singing on the streets, and distributing books. And the mayor of the city was informed. So the mayor said, "What is this? You are disturbing the law, dancing on the streets." So he actually sent the police and had them arrested. So these devotees, they were very depressed. So actually, this was the day, the day on which they were arrested. That was early morning on Sunday. And Sunday, we know we have the Sunday feast in every ISKCON temple. There is Sunday feast program in the Sunday. So actually, and Sunday feast is something that everybody looks forward to, because, and these devotees are like temple residents, and and on the Sunday there is like a nice feast is there, and there is kirtan, and there is Krishna Katha, everything is there. So so they were depressed, firstly because they were in jail, and secondly because they are going to miss their Sunday feast now. So one of the devotees came up with the idea that just as we do Manas Puja, let us do Manas Sunday feast. And all of them got excited. So one devotee said, "No, okay, I'll cook gulab jamun." So other said, "I'll cook halwa." The other one said, "I'll cook pakoras," and the other one said, "I'll cook puris." So the policemen who were guarding outside, they were a little perplexed. What is this going on? They were, as it is, surprised, by the strange dress of the devotees. On top of that, they started, these devotees inside the lockup, they started shaking and moving in strange ways. So these people, the policemen, they thought that these people are, they're crazy, but they look crazy, but they also look happy. So these devotees, they had their whole Manas Sunday feast cooking, and they had a real Sunday feast class, a real Sunday feast kirtan, and then all of them sat down for prasad, and very seriously, they all chanted the prasadam prayers and very seriously started eating. And after all of them had prasadam, they said this was the best feast. Why? Because there was no shortage of anything, and after eating everything, there was no digestion problem also. So when all of this was going on, by that time the temple president contacted the mayor and the sheriff also, and then the devotees were let out, and then they also could attend the Sunday feast. So the point is, Krishna is available everywhere for a devotee. So this verse actually talks about Krishna's universal availability for a devotee. Now interestingly, after saying that everywhere is he has hands and legs, he says that don't think that these senses are ordinary or mundane. He says Supersoul has no senses. In the next verse, in 13.15, he says that. Yet he is the source of all senses. So in this section, Bhagavad Gita is talking about the transcendental higher nature of the Supersoul. This section is very important from an understanding perspective. Just as Uddhava says in the Uddhav Gita, excuse me. My dear Lord, although you are unborn, you appear to take birth. Although you are supremely powerful, you appear to be afraid and run away from your enemy. Although you are completely self-satisfied, you appear to marry and enjoy with so many women. So actually the point is, Krishna, because he is transcendental, he can do all the things that ordinary people do, but without getting attached. So these verses very clearly are referring to Brahman or to Bhagwan, But what, so sorry, these verses are very clearly referring to Paramatma or to Bhagwan. But what the Mayavadis do is, according to Mayavadis, there is no difference between soul and the super soul. They say that the same Brahman is present in every living entity as a ghost. They say that Brahman actually had entered every living entity as a ghost. And they also say that actually Krishna is speaking the Bhagavad Gita because the ghost of Brahman has entered into Krishna. So, but something that the Mayavadis are not able to explain is that if Brahman is just one undifferentiated homogeneous substance, then how does this word emerge from it? Now, how did the different senses emerge from it? That cannot be explained by this logic which they give. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his debate, now many of you who have read Chaitanya Charitamrita, you would know. So he had two famous debates with two Mayavadis. Anyone knows who were those two Mayavadis with whom Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had debates?
Prakashananda Saraswati is one.
Yeah, that is one. And second?
Keshav Kashmiri.
No, so Keshav Kashmiri was not Mayavadi actually. Who said that? Someone said Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Padma-
Yeah, that is right. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his debate with both Prakashananda Saraswati and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he gives the same argument. It is a devastating argument. What is that? The Upanishads describe Saha Akshitaha. The Saha Akshita means the universe began with the glance of that supreme entity, whatever you may call it, since the Mayavadis don't accept Bhagwan and Paramatma, all they accept is Brahman. So Saha, it means that. So whatever the word that means, so whatever it is, he glanced and that is how the creation began. Now, according to Mayavadis, all senses are a result of Maya. So now at the time of the creation has not begun, when this Saha Akshita, when this is said, so by his glance, the creation actually began. So then whose senses were there that glanced and started the creation? Because the senses came after the creation had come. That is how it is explained. So whose senses were there? No, glance means whoever glanced, he had actually eyes. So the senses that existed before creation cannot be mundane. The senses that existed before the creation, they have to be spiritual. So that means in the spiritual reality, whatever that reality is, there are senses. And that means the spiritual reality is personal. So it is a very logical fallout. So actually yesterday also Jiva Mataji explained that the same contradictory sounding description that are there in these verses, he don't have senses, but he's the source of all senses. He walks, but he doesn't walk. He's far away, yet he is close. So Mataji explained that the same contradictory sounding description is also there in another book. So which book is that? Anyone remembers?
Ishopanishad.
Yeah. So Shri Ishopanishad. So yesterday we discussed that.
Prabhuji,
So-
very good logic. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Achita, Prabhuji, what I read, Achita means he desired.
Saha Akshita, Saha Isrijyata. So we'll discuss that, Prabhuji. But
First he desired and then he glanced.
Yeah, he desired, he glanced. So yet the Saha Isrijyata. So I'm not exactly, maybe I'm giving the Sanskrit, I'm not connecting properly to the English words.
But it's good
Yeah.
that he desired or he glanced first before creation.
Exactly.
So that
Yeah.
that proves that he has senses.
Right. So this
Yeah.
logic was given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So yeah. All right. So in Ishopanishad it is said, Tad dure tadantike. No, he's far away, yet he is near. He walks, but he doesn't walk. No, he is inside everything and he is outside everything. Interestingly, when I was coming to ISKCON, this is the first book I read very systematically. Somehow I was so impressed with this book. I read it at least 4 to 5 times. Every time I used to travel somewhere outstation, I used to carry this book with me and read on the way. Somehow I used to love that book. Now I have not read it for many years now. But yesterday when Mataji mentioned about it, I immediately recollected that, this was such an interesting book, Shri Ishopanishad. The first verse itself is very interesting, which, what is that? Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam. Very nice verse.
Isavasamidam sarvam.
Yeah.
Yat kinchit jagatyam jagat. Tena taktena bhundi thamagirta kasasitana.
Right. So from a mundane point of view, the description sounds very contradictory, but they are not actually contradictions, they are paradox. The paradox means when two contradictory single statements are placed next to each other.
Dhunwaji, Prabhuji.
Yeah, You're sounding
Now,
really bad, Ganapati Govind Prabhu.
it seems good now. Yeah.
Okay, is it better now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So from a mundane point of view, the description sounds very contradictory, but they are not actually contradictions, they are paradox. So paradox means when two contradictory seeming statements, they are placed next to each other to convey a deeper truth. So paradox is a common way, and it is very commonly used in Upanishads, and even if we see here, even in the Bhagavad Gita. So in this section of the Gita, 13th chapter onwards, this is, the Jnana section. So Krishna is suddenly using very enigmatic language, which is very Upanishadic language. So all those contradictions that Krishna is bringing up here. So just once such a language had come in the 9th chapter, which was 9.4 and 9.5, Maya Tatamidam Sarvam. There, this enigmatic language had come. But before that and after that, it has not come so much until this 13th chapter. So because this chapter is meant for the Gyanis, the Gyanis, they're intellectuals. Now, if you tell them something very straightforwardly, they will say, oh, this is so easy, this doesn't make any sense. But if you, say that thing in a round and round and round way, where they have to apply their brain to understand it, they will say, oh, yes, this is something which, this makes sense to me. So that is how their nature is. So that is why, when there is this verse, Prabhupada explains, anyway, he basically, that one Paramatma, he maintains all living entities. I'm missing the Sanskrit of that verse. So when Krishna says that, when it is mentioned that when super soul, when one supreme being maintain all the other beings, that also means that he also maintains by giving them knowledge, and giving them knowledge in a way in which they can relish or contemplate that knowledge. So that is why, we see suddenly Krishna is talking in these paradoxical sounding terms. So paradox is a common way for teaching deeper truths which are beyond ordinary material understanding. So then in the 16th verse, the statement becomes more enigmatic. Krishna says, Sukshmatva tad avigyayam. That gyeya means which is to be known, is actually unknowable. So how is this possible? The gyeya, that truth which is to be known by knowledge, that is actually unknowable, meaning we cannot know him only. So how is it? Now Krishna will answer this in the 19th verse. How this avigyaya can be known? Avigya means that though he cannot be known, but he becomes knowable by something, by some process that is described in the 19th verse. And that process actually is bhakti. This is Krishna actually gives fun to the Gyanis in the 13th chapter onwards, but he poisons their fun also. Twice he had talked about bhakti. This is the hardcore Jnana section, and in fact 13th chapter is the heart of the Jnana section. All these technical terms are being talked about here. This 14th chapter onwards, it's not so much technical. It is, but not so much. So this 13th chapter is the heart of the Jnana section. Still, twice Krishna talks about bhakti in this chapter. Once he had talked about in the verses 8 to 12. So, and then again he will talk about it in the 19th chapter. And then it will say that this jnana, which is meant for the jnanis, this jnana cannot be understood without bhakti. So this basically completely poisons their fun here in the Bhagavad Gita. So and then Krishna says, Durastham Chantike Chatat. Now he is far away, yet he is very near. So how does Prabhupada explains this in the purport of Sri Ishopnishad? So there is this verse, Tad Dure Tadantike. Now he gives three different examples. So first he explains, for the atheists, Krishna is far away. But for the devotees, because they have turned towards God, he is very near. Secondly, he says, the Bhagwan is very, very far away, Tad Dure. But Paramatma is Tadantike, he is very close. Similarly, Prabhupada also says, the third thing he says, actually the Lord is very far away. But when he comes as the deity, he is Tadantike. He is just next to you. You can just go and see him and render service to him and talk to him and offer, whatever bhoga or whatever you want to do. So he is there to accept our services as the deity. So he is very near in that sense. And now in this verse, which we are discussing just now, Krishna describes how the super soul appears divided, yet he is not divided. So why does he appears to be divided? Because the super soul is the Vishnu forms. The word plenary means complete. People generally they confuse this word plenary with partial. They think that plenary means partial, but actually plenary means, if you take the dictionary, you will see that plenary means complete. So Prabhupada uses a lot of parliamentarian language. Excuse me. Like he took the word GBC from the Indian Railways. Though he himself mentions it in one of the BTG editorials, he has mentioned this. So like the Indian Railways, when the railways was being commissioned under the British Indian government, the situation was very chaotic, and to keep railways moving was an administrative miracle. So the railways had set up something called as governing body commission. So like that, Prabhupada took the word plenary from the parliament. A plenary session in the parliament, it means a session in which all the members are present. All the members of the parliament, they are present. Similarly, the plenary expansion means he is an expansion, but he is fully there. So the super soul is one, but it has expanded in many. The super soul which is there in my heart is equally present in my heart as it is present in any other living entity's heart. So actually, the one of the words that we use for super soul is Chaitya Guru. So how it is the Chaitya Guru? Sometimes we might have seen that when we go to our Guru for something and we ask something, or we just meet him, he will say something exactly that we needed to hear. When I after my initiation, I first met my Guru Maharaj. I offered my obeisances to him, and the first thing that he asked me is, "How is your chanting going on?" And at that time, seriously, I was like struggling with my chanting. It was so difficult to focus, and I used to feel so mechanical. And what is the point in doing such a mechanical chanting? So suddenly, he just hit the what do we say? Hit the nail, where it has to be hit. So he suddenly said, "How is your chanting going on?" And I couldn't understand why is he asking that. But then it struck me that I'm struggling with my chanting. So actually, I just explained to him. Similarly, I have asked, I've spoken to many of my god brothers and even read interactions of devotees with Srila Prabhupada. No, without even giving a hint to Guru Maharaj or to your own Guru, he will suddenly say something that which you needed to hear at that time. So how it is that, no, it is not that the Guru is omniscient, he knows everything. So how it works is the same super soul which is there in our heart, that same super soul is present in the heart of the Guru also. And that super soul, sometimes it gives inspiration from within. From within he will give us inspiration. All the inspiration, actually, it is said, it comes from the super soul only. And sometimes he will give the inspiration from through our own Guru, our physical Guru, the Guru which is externally visible to us. So that super soul is actually it is like an expansion, a plenary expansion of the Vishnu forms, and that is why it appears to be divided. There's so many living entities, so many atoms, so many molecules, and it is mentioned that the Paramatma actually enters each and every heart of each and every living entity. He also enters each and every atom and molecule. So how is it? The same Bhagwan actually had expanded himself in many plenary portions, and that is how he is able to be present. He appears to be divided, but actually he is not divided. So in the 12th verse, if you remember, Krishna had said, "No, I declare that only what I have described here is the process of knowledge. No, everything apart from this knowledge is ignorance or agyan." So very emphatic statement. He says everything except this. So he had described about 20 qualities over there, and then Prabhupada says that actually it is the process of knowledge. So process of knowledge, it is to be followed to acquire knowledge. And acquire knowledge about what? So we see that these verses here, 13 through 19, they are talking about the Gyeya. What is it which is to be known by following the process of knowledge? So Krishna says that everything except this is agyan. Now somebody may say that, no, this is not agyan. My cell phone works. My laptop works. It is through my laptop that I'm able to talk to you. My internet works. Sometimes you may not be able to hear me very clearly, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't work. It works. So how is this? How all of this is agyan? Isn't this knowledge? Anyone would like to answer this? This is knowledge, right? Anyone? I'm sorry.
What was the question?
This is Vigyan, Prabhu. Vigyan. This is Maya. Science.
Okay. So actually, Gyan, the way it is used in the seventh chapter is Gyan is the theoretical knowledge and Vigyan is the realized knowledge. When we realize that we are not the body, we are the soul. When we realize that Krishna is actually the supreme person, and when we realize our relationship with Krishna, that is what is said to be as Vigyan in the Bhagavad Gita. So the word Vigyan, as we understand it, that is material science, but that is not the way it is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. But you said it right. It is in the realm of Maya, in the realm of ignorance. So Gitamala Mataji wanted to ask, Gitamala Mataji wanted to know what is the question. The question is, Krishna says in the verses 8 to 12 that all this is the process of knowledge, and everything except this is actually agyan, it is ignorance. So my question was, we see so many things that work in the material world. We see my cell phone works, my laptop works, my internet connection works, my car works. So how is that agyan? You need knowledge to make things work. So isn't that knowledge? So that was the question. So
It is aparavidya.
yeah. Yeah. So yes, it is knowledge in the sense that we know how to make things work, but we don't know why to make things work. So knowledge is not of much use unless it is connected with the ultimate purpose. Therefore, Krishna says that everything else is agyan. So to understand this better, so ignorance is bad, but ignorance of ignorance is worse. Now, what do I mean ignorance of ignorance? Now, if I am ignorant and I know that I am ignorant, then at least there is some hope that I will become knowledgeable. But if I'm ignorant and I think that I know, then there is no hope of educating me. I think that I am such a brilliant person, but actually I'm ignorant. So then there is no hope of educating me. So that is ignorance of ignorance. So actually there are three levels. So somebody may argue that science is also a quest for knowledge. And why do you criticize scientists? So yes, we don't criticize the spirit of that quest for knowledge. In fact, it is talked about in the Vedanta Sutra, Athato Brahma Jigyasa. So, but what happens is, Prabhupada explains in Bhagavatam Purport that the modern science, what it does is, it expands our ignorance. It expands the ignorance. Now, what does it mean? It expands the ignorance. So we expand our knowledge within the realm of ignorance. So this material word is tamasoma jyotirgamaya. So within the realm of tamas, we expand our ignorance. So this is not real knowledge. So I was talking about three levels. So what are those three levels? The first level is that I am ignorant and I know that I am ignorant. So that is the first level, and which is good. It is not good, it is bad because I am ignorant, but at least there is a hope, that I will be able to become knowledgeable. I'll be able to basically following some process, following some path, I will be able to acquire gyan. But the second level is I am ignorant, but I think I am knowledgeable. So at this level, I consider that my ignorance is the highest truth, and which is what material science does. What it does is, it says that no, this is what is truth. No, we have the technological advancements. There are so many advancements are there. And yesterday we were discussing about that cryonics and other things where they are trying to bring what is it called? Uh, freedom from death at the material level.
And you also gave the story about Radhanath Maharaj and that professor.
Yeah, right. So that science thinks that is actually gyan. So it is worse. But the worst, which is the third level, is which the modern science have started doing now. No, it considers the truth to be ignorance. Now, what does it mean? Considers truth to be ignorance? No, the spiritual realm is actually the absolute truth. But what the science thinks is that the God, the soul, all this is ignorance, and foolish people believe in these unscientific things. So the first level is I am ignorant and I know that I am ignorant, and I strive to acquire knowledge. That is the first level. Second is I am ignorant, but I think I am knowledgeable. So I think that all this scientific progress that is happening, that is the truth, and that is what is to be sought after. That is what is my life is meant for. So that is the second level, which is worse. And the worst is that what the truth which is there, the actual real, the spiritual truth, that considering that to be ignorance. So that is the worst level, and that is what modern science has started doing now. Not all the scientists are like that, but many of the scientists, they actually talk about. So even Stephen Hawking, if you remember, he was such an atheistic scientist. So many of you would know that how he used to actually condemn the theists. So I'm not going to go in much of the detail, but the point
Which is
is
shocking considering all the
exactly,
suffering he went through.
exactly. So, and he was, in our times at least, he was the most famous scientific personality, and he was atheistic. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that whatever a great man does, common people follow. So people will look at his example. This is such a great scientist. He has so much knowledge, and if he thinks that there is no God, that means there is no God. So therefore, they will also try to follow the way of atheism. So slowly, the society is moving in that direction.
But look at our false ego. Even in that pathetic condition, he still thinks he's great.
Yeah.
When
True.
I saw his movie, and I just could not believe, how in such a pathetic condition he still thinks he's great.
Right. So I'll read the translation one more time. Although the Supersoul appears to be divided among all beings, he is never divided. He is situated as one. Although he is the maintainer of every living entity, it is to be understood that he devours and develops all. So with that, I'll take a pause and see if there are any other comments or questions about what we have discussed today.
I have one comment, Ganapati Govind. You said that your Guru Maharaj, that Krishna in it, is in everyone's heart, and that's why they can, at the same moment that you were thinking, he thought. But I just have to say, like Srila Prabhupada saw deeply into his devout disciples. Some of them said they saw like way beyond them completely, even their past. So that's not necessarily, pure devotees can have divya drishti, that they
Right.
can actually see. So it's
No,
not necessarily Krishna in their heart and your heart kind of coinciding at the same time.
no, I agree with you, Mataji. But even that Divya
And I'm
Drishti,
not saying that our Guru Maharajas are going to claim to be as pure as Srila Prabhupada, but still, we don't know
yeah.
if they actually are seeing within our
No,
hearts.
yeah, I agree with you that they may have some what do we call it, siddhis. Even Prabhupada also writes in the Bhagavad Gita,
Yeah, they
or in
don't
the
show it. Yeah, but they
exactly,
may have it. Yeah.
they have siddhi.
Why don't we think of it as the super soul itself speaking through your Guru Maharaj?
Right, right.
Because
So
the premise is that the super soul is present in every living entity.
correct.
Though it is detached from everyone, it is present in everyone.
I know, but one reporter, when Srila Prabhupada was saying, Krishna speaks to me, and that's how I'm writing these books. And his disciples kind of trying to, or the reporter may not understand what Prabhupada is saying. He tried to kind of correct Srila Prabhupada, and he said, well, Krishna kind of reveals it in his heart, is what he said. And Srila
exactly,
Prabhupada said, no, Krishna actually speaks to me and tells me what to write. So we cannot assume that our Guru Maharajas are like just kind of being revealed to by the super soul in our hearts. We should never claim that, as a disciple. We should always consider that our Guru Maharaj is I feel sometimes that my Guru Maharaj is seeing all my flaws, but he's not saying anything. It's not that he doesn't see it, but
right,
he's being kind and merciful to me. But he can
yeah,
see through me. He can see
right,
all my fakeness. He can see all my, anarthas, but he may not be saying it. So
right.
we cannot assume that our Guru Maharajas actually do not have some divya drishti in seeing who we are,
Completely possible, Mataji. I completely agree. But what I what I meant was, it is through the medium of Paramatma that a guru can know, because there are thousands of disciples. At least in my case, he has thousands of disciples, and and he will speak different things to different people. I was talking to one when I went to India this time. So I met a devotee, and he was telling me that once he actually had to go to UK for some assignment. So these are personal realizations I should not share, but I'm not taking any names. So generally it is said that we should not share any personal realizations that people may have had with their gurus. But But just to convey the point, no, he will say something completely different. No, you may say that okay, chanting is something which almost everybody has that problem. Everybody kinds of struggles at times with chantings, and almost it happens with everyone. But he was telling me that he had to go to UK, and just before he had to go to leave for UK, the one day before, he actually went to meet Guru Maharaj, and just to take his blessings, and and just to tell him that I'm going. So he went to him, and then he said that Maharaj, I'm leaving for UK tomorrow, and I actually wanted to seek your blessings before I leave, and I don't think I'll be back before a year or so. So no, he said that Maharaj immediately told me, "Are you going to UK? Are you sure that you're going to UK?" So he said, "Yes, Maharaj, my tickets are done and the flight is tomorrow. Everything is all set. So I have to leave tomorrow." So, okay, just make sure one more time that you are really going. And then he left it at that. And then he said the next day he went to the airport. And then at the airport, he actually got a call from his manager that, that whatever assignment he had to go for, that assignment got cancelled. So, and then he had to cancel his visit. So, I mean, what you said makes sense. It is possible. I'm not denying that, even Prabhupada writes it. But at least the way I was trying to understand was that through the medium of Paramatma, the Paramatma actually can tell things from the heart and give that inspirations.
Prabhuji, there is one pastime also, right, about Prabhupada when some reporter asked Prabhupada that how do you get this much money? You have, you do so many things and everything requires money. So Prabhupada said, Krishna provide. And then this reporter again asked, he could not understand. So the disciple said that we have the devotees who, give the donation. So then Prabhupada again said, no, Krishna provide. And then this reporter was like, then Prabhupada said to him, if I pray to Krishna, then you will also give all your money to me. So I think he is not willing to give, but inside the super soul will inspire him, and then will be giving his money. So that's how Prabhupada said to the reporter. And so yeah, that definitely super soul inspires. So Prabhupada can pray, and he can give his all money. That can happen.
Right.
Just wanted to share.
Yeah, no, both the possibilities are there. At least I think it that way.
Yeah, in our
Yes,
case, definitely,
yes, Prabhu, that
Ganapati,
is true.
in our case, it's definitely the super soul inspiring
Right.
us, without sometimes even without our knowledge, we just have the inspiration, to do something. And in
Right.
that case, but I am saying we should not claim that of our Guru Maharajas. That's where I'm coming from,
Yeah, and not just through Guru Maharaj, even through our Shiksha Gurus, sometimes we hear some things that we were, that we needed to hear at that time. I actually mentioned it once. So it was long time back here in US, actually in Connecticut. Some devotee told me something about some other devotee, and I was really very disturbed about it. I was so disturbed in my mind that, I was not able to focus on anything else. And, it 2-3 days I was disturbed about it, and then the 3 days after that there was a program at Sudevi Priya Mataji's home. So Sudevi Priya Mataji, she does the every Kartik month she does, right, the program. So that day Pyari Prabhu was giving a lecture, and then in the lecture he said something which completely makes sense to me, and that resolved my whatever whatever was going on in my mind. And it was as if I just wanted to hear that. That is why I was disturbed, and I was very keenly hearing that lecture. Generally I reach uh, uh, at these programs very late, but somehow that day I reached on time, before time actually, and I was there from beginning. I was very keenly, intently hearing the lecture that Pyari Prabhu was giving, and he said something which he basically, it relieved all my whatever disturbance I had in my mind. So even not just through, it may not be just through Diksha Guru, but even through Shiksha Gurus, at times Paramatma can reveal things to us,
Oh,
which we
that happens all the time.
all the time, yeah.
I mean, if I'm thinking of something, I open up the Bhagavad Gita and I feel like Srila Prabhupada is speaking to me in that,
Right.
So you feel like, how did this happen? This is what I was worrying about, and this is feels like an instruction, that's coming to me, So that happens to many devotees all the time, that's
Right.
something that's obviously Krishna is sending that message to you,
Exactly.
That is true. That is very true.
I was hearing a class from a Maharaj, I think Niranjan Maharaj or Radhanath Maharaj, but he said that sometimes, as you said, that sometimes you had some perplexity in your mind, you have some very big question in your mind, and then you're reading
Mhm.
some purport of Srila Prabhupada in his book, and then that very thing is mentioned in that purport. And then he actually was saying that actually this is how Krishna reciprocates. No? He inspires you to read that thing, and then when you read it, you get answers to your question. So he may not directly come in front of you, and as it is shown in the movies that Krishna himself coming
and like yesterday when I said when I had my hand problem, Srila Prabhupada tells the exact things. If Krishna does not will it, you can't even lift your hand. You know what I'm saying? At the very moment when he can be instructive to you. So that happens so many times in the lives of devotees, as they transform.
Yeah. So many realizations devotees have.
And my Guru Maharaj also gave me an instruction exactly like, so just like your Guru Maharaj, you had the issue and then he gave you an instruction where you were like just ready to hear it, So those things happen to, I think, a lot of us.
Yeah. So any other questions or comments about what we have discussed today?
Prabhu, you mentioned about the Saguna Brahma and Brahman and Nirguna Brahman. What is Saguna Brahman?
Exactly. So there is nothing called as Sagun Brahman. There is in the scriptures, it is not mentioned anywhere. So this Sagun Brahma concept is invented by the Mayavadis. What they say is that the Nirgun Nirakar Brahma, which is there, we know the Brahman that we are talking about. So that Brahman is Nirgun, but that Brahman actually, when it comes in the contact of material modes, it takes a form, and then it comes down as Sagun Brahma. So we all, we have shape, we have some gunas, guna in the sense material gunas, the modes of nature. So our bodies are made up of material modes of nature. So it acquires guna, and it acquires such form, acquires a shape, sakar. So that they explain that is actually Sagun Brahma. So Baldev Vidyabhushan actually contends this. He says that if you read all the scriptures which are there, in one scripture, show me where this concept of Sagun Brahman is mentioned. Wherever Brahman is mentioned, it is mentioned as Nirgun only. And Nirgun doesn't mean that it does not have any qualities. It means that it has no material qualities. So that means it has spiritual qualities. So the concept of Nirgun Brahman is not mentioned in any scriptures. It is invented by the Mayavadis. So I was explaining about that verse, where Krishna in the 13.14, where he talks about everywhere are his legs and hands, everywhere are his faces and eyes and ears. So that verse they explain metaphorically by saying that Sagun Brahma becomes, that Nirgun Brahman becomes Sagun everywhere. So in that context, I had used that. But, as I was saying, Advaita Acharya was not satisfied with that, with that. Although it may, Prabhupada very nicely and, says that actually it is super soul. It actually is super soul. That verse refers to super soul. In one purport, actually, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in one of the purports, Prabhupada actually references this verse. And he says that this verse can be interpreted in a way to mean that this verse refers to the jivas, not to the Paramatma, to the regular Atmas like us. But he explains it a little differently over there. But there also he says that it is only because of the Paramatma only. So he says that actually every jiva, whatever we do, it is through the approval of the Paramatma that we are able to do everything. Like Mataji was saying that you cannot even lift your hand unless there is a sanction from Krishna. So in that way, it can be understood to be meant as it refers to the jivas. But the way the Mayavadis explain this verse, that one Brahman, it enters into every living entity as ghost in our bodies, and that is how our bodies start functioning. So they say that there is no duality. Everything is one. You and I are one. So it is just that because we are under the influence of Maya, we are not able to realize it. And once we are free from the influence of Maya, our identity will lose our identity, spiritual identity, and it will go and merge into Brahman. So the way they explain this verse, that is through the concept of Sagun Brahman, and Baldev Vidyabhushan actually challenges that conception. So Advaita Acharya was a little perplexed about this verse, and it is mentioned that he was very disturbed about this verse. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came in his dreams, and then he explained the meaning of this verse. So in that context, I had used the Sagun Brahman.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Actually,
Yeah.
Saguna and Nirguna are both Krishna. It's actually
Right.
Krishna who is Saguna.
Yeah, but
Because he's all qualities in full.
exactly.
And Nirguna means also that does not have any of the material modes
Material
of
qualities.
nature. Yeah.
But the point is, the word Sagun Brahman doesn't come anywhere in the scriptures.
Yeah, I
So,
wouldn't think so.
yeah. Wherever the word Brahman comes, it is described as Nirgun only.
Mhm.
That is what Baldev Vidyabhushan writes. I have not read all the scriptures, obviously, but Baldev Vidyabhushan explains that.
And that is true because it's free from the material modes.
Right. Any other questions or comments about what we discussed today? Okay, so if there are no other comments or questions, I just conclude with one last thing. So we were discussing about how science actually basically expands our knowledge in the realm of ignorance. So there is a very nice conversation that Srila Prabhupada had been with one of the scientists. I forgot the name now, but and I exactly do not remember the exact discussion, but I just paraphrase what I remember. So actually, so there is a nice conversation that happened. So he tells to Srila Prabhupada, no, Prabhupada, our science has made so much progress now. We have so much knowledge about, about different planets, about our own planet, about trees, about different animals, so it is such, it has made so much progress. So Prabhupada says that your knowledge is like the knowledge of a prisoner. He studies everything. He studies the bars, what are the bars made of, what is the window, where does it, where can you see from the window, you study the walls, what kind of paint is made on the wall, the prisoner who is in the jail, he is studying everything in the jail, but he doesn't ask where is the key to this prison, how do I get out of this prison. So he says that actually you don't understand that this place is a place of misery. No matter how much knowledge you can have about this world, ultimately this place is a place of misery. And what we have to do is to get out of this material world and go to the spiritual world. But your science is actually, they are, you have knowledge about this material world, but you do not know how to go out of this material world. Then what is the point of this knowledge? So very expertly, Srila Prabhupada used to, debate with these scientists about different things. There are many such conversations actually. So the other day I was talking about, on Monday I was mentioning about his discussion with Professor Benford, how he was talking about grass, and Prabhupada said that no, my point is that you are studying the grass, but you forget the God who has put the grass over here. So all the knowledge that we have today in the material world, in the material science, it is in the realm of ignorance. We keep on expanding our knowledge in the realm of ignorance. So with that, I think we can stop here. So
But
tomorrow,
it can all be directed in Krishna's service. Then
yeah,
it becomes transcendental.
exactly. Like we are doing now. We are using technology for Krishna's service.
Technology for Krishna's service.
Yeah. Many devotees are doing that actually now. Almost all the devotees.
My God, I
Virtual
think it's
association.
world over. We cannot join every Zoom class. There's that
Exactly.
many.
Actually, I was reading somewhere either in the Back to Godhead or on Dandavas.com that the ISKCON is doing a lot of preaching, but still it is not able to do or not doing much preaching online through internet. But whereas the other groups, Christians and Islam, they do a lot of preaching through internet. But now I'm thinking with this, our devotees would have got a taste of how to preach through internet or
To
through
internet,
online.
yes. Because now we can get hundreds of classes from anywhere. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? We can
Yeah.
hear from India classes and any time of the day, all day we can listen to classes now.
Right. No, they had mentioned that that ISIS that had come up, right? The
Yeah,
Islamic,
yeah,
all that preaching that they had done, they had brainwashed people through internet only, you know. So
yeah.
they did so much destructive preaching through internet.
Right.
We
So
can
how
do
much can
it
we do constructively, right? If we
constructively, yeah,
put our brains into it.
exactly. Most of the people came through internet preaching only. So, and they were preaching to people far, far away in different countries, and people were getting
Right.
influenced by their ideologies, and they were joining ISIS.
So I had one thought of, I don't know whether this is the correct thought, but since everyone's understanding of the Supreme Godhead is essentially going to be limited by the clarity of their own material senses, including their ahankar and their buddhi. Now, if the same Gita is read by a person who is naturally very pious and gentle, he will have a certain uh, visualization of Lord Krishna. Let's say that he has not seen any pictures, right? He just learned Gita as a text. And there is someone else who is essentially a very aggressive, very violent, crazy kind of a person. And if both of them believe what they read in toto, would their perception of the Supreme Godhead still be the same?
But that's
Okay.
why it said we should not be reading it just by ourselves, but from a bona fide,
No, despite that, even if there is a guru to teach you, take a case of one guru and two disciples, one who is naturally aggressive and one who is naturally very pious and gentle.
Actually, we have examples like that even here within our ISKCON itself. So we know that so you might know that in ISKCON book distribution is very big. So Prabhupada had actually said that, the best thing to do is to distribute books. The best form of preaching is to distribute books. And many people in the in the movement has come through book distribution, and
Right.
many actually Westerners. So just by reading the books, they had come, and they had come from various different backgrounds. Some were very aggressive. No, I'm writing, I'm exchanging letters with a person who is in jail right now. So he was a Christian, and then he became a Muslim, and then he went to jail because he was very aggressive. He did something, he explained in his letter, but somehow in the jail he met another person who gave him this Bhagavad Gita from Prabhupada, and he read that book, and then suddenly something struck to him. And then he actually, if you see the Bhagavad Gita as it is, at the back there are the list of all the centers and their addresses are mentioned. So he picked up the ISKCON Connecticut address, and then he wrote a letter with his that he wanted to ask some questions. That is how I got connected with him. The letter came to temple, and Pyari Prabhu gave it to me and asked me to communicate with him. But the point is, no, it is actually Krishna. No, he from the heart. No, he sees how sincere a person is and what does he want actually. What are his inner desires? So he reciprocates from within. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam tathaiva bhajamyaham. So 4.11 Krishna says, as one surrenders unto me, accordingly I reciprocate with that person. So Krishna from within the heart can give the realization if he sees the sincerity in that person. It doesn't matter if the person is pious or it is coming from a violent background. Many people
No, I
even in
understand that Krishna will do the right thing for each one of them. But, since we were in this verse 15, that he is beyond the vision of the senses. So when we have a image of Lord Krishna in our mind, just like that, maybe some Christians have an image of God
right.
in their mind. Muslims have an image of Allah in their mind. Is that inherently something that is described in the book, or it is a interpretation of the person's own nature?
No, it is so how Krishna as a person is. It is not mentioned explicitly in the Bhagavad Gita, but at least his qualities are mentioned and how he reciprocates with the devotees, how he reciprocates with general people. All those things are mentioned. His qualities are mentioned. How he basically maintains the spiritual world. Now, if you
Mhm.
mean to say that how he looks, how much is his height, how what is his color, all those things are not specifically mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, but they are mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. That is a more advanced scripture from Bhagavad Gita. So in the Bhagavad Gita, if you read, you can understand the nature of God. You can understand the identity of God. Okay, that God is a person whose name is Krishna, and these are his characteristics. This is how he is. That is his nature. So those things, his identity, you can understand. But if you want to understand his personality, how he is as a person, that for that you may not correctly be able to find that in the Bhagavad Gita directly, but Srila Prabhupada very expertly writes at multiple places in the Bhagavad Gita in the purports. He describes a lot of events from what has happened, and then he describes how the personality of God is. He does that, but if you want to directly read it in a scripture, that is given in the Srimad Bhagavatam.
And also we're not supposed to sentimentally, that's called sahajiya, to sentimentally imagine how God is and God looks like is not actually
But isn't that
prohibited.
the whole basis of bhakti? Unless you have a form that you find love with, you'll never reach bhakti.
Right, but you have to find a bona fide form, Upendra. You cannot just worship a tree, or you cannot worship a
You
ghost
can,
and
yes, you can.
expect to. Yeah, you can, but
In
what is
fact,
that? What is that?
that is the whole essence of this
Right,
verse
but
15.
you will reach whatever you
That the
worship.
super
Like,
soul is
what is that
present
verse, Ganapati
everywhere
Govind?
in every living thing and non-living thing.
Yanti Deva. What is that verse, Ganapati Govind?
Yanti Deva Vratan Devan
Yeah. So
Pitrayanti
whatever you
Pitraloka.
worship is where you're going to go. So it depends on what you want. If you want to go to Krishna Loka, you have to worship Krishna. If you want to worship go to a ghostly planet, you can worship a ghost. So it's what is it you want is what you have to decide
No,
first.
that is. I'm trying to understand. Will a person's understanding of the super soul itself vary based on their own
Conditionings.
mental framework?
Right. No, yeah, it could vary. It could vary. Definitely, it could vary if they are on their own. But then ultimately, it is said that okay, so there are three ways of acquiring knowledge. So one is through anuman. So and you can read certain scriptures and then you can make some inferences which are there. So that is called anuman. One is pratyaksha, where you see from your own eyes and then you acquire knowledge. That is the second. But the scriptures describe that the best form of knowledge is shabda. Shabda is basically when you hear from a bona fide spiritual master, and that is also what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, that in the 4th chapter he says that you go and surrender to a spiritual master and acquire knowledge from him. So that is the best way of acquiring knowledge. But as you said, it is possible that a person may get some conceptions of how God is or who God is, and because of his prior conditionings, even after reading the Bhagavad Gita. But that is why when we read the Gita, even when if you read Bhagavad Gita, you will start getting a lot of questions. That is what has happened to me also. When I was first reading the Bhagavad Gita, I used to get a lot of questions. Now, why is this mentioned? How can Krishna do this? How is it possible to do like this? Isn't this doesn't make sense? So a lot of questions you get, and based on what kind of answers you get to your questions, you make your mental conceptions about God and about other spiritual aspects. So that is why it is very important to have an authority who can answer your questions based on the scriptures. No, you don't want to go to a person who is speculating and giving you answers based on his own interpretations. So you want to go to an authority and get answers from him and get the real knowledge from him. That is how you will be able to get the correct knowledge. So that is what
So that again would essentially depend on someone who says, or some organization who says that we are a good authority. So if someone believes that okay, ISKCON is a good authority, they would believe everything that's there in the book.
yeah. So
Someone says that I don't believe in ISKCON, because there are people who are ardent Krishna Bhakta.
hmm.
They are Vaishnavas through and through, but they say ISKCON takes money from India and takes it to US. you know. So that is their bottom line for rejecting everything that Srila Prabhupada is doing, has done.
Yeah, so actually, how do you find a bona fide authority? So actually, the scriptures itself tell us that there is a framework to know whether a person is actually bona fide or not. First of all, you can read the Nectar of Instruction. What is the Hindi name of it? Nectar of Updeshamrit. So there it is mentioned that what are the qualifications of a spiritual master. So you can read that. Okay, these are the qualifications of a spiritual master mentioned in the scriptures. Then the scriptures give a framework that okay, you hear from a person and then you verify whether the person that what he's saying is correct or not. So the framework is Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So what your Guru is saying should match with what the previous sadhus have said, and then it should match with what is mentioned in the scriptures. So it is like a triangle like this: Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So all three should be in sync. So that is the framework that is
Sadhu
used.
is the Guru's Guru, or
Previous gurus. It may not
someone
be
in
Guru's
the Guru Parampara.
Yeah, so like for example, what Prabhupada is saying matches with what Madhvacharya had said, and it also matches with what Ramanujacharya had said, and it also he also quotes from Baldev Vidyabhushan, he quotes from Chakravarti Pad, he quotes from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So many different acharyas he quotes in his purports, and actually you can go and read the commentaries of these other acharyas on the Bhagavad Gita, on Srimad Bhagavatam, and compare it with what Srila Prabhupada is saying. What is his understanding? So you will see that actually what Srila Prabhupada is saying is actually in sync with what the other sadhus have said. Though Ramanujacharya is not in the same Guru Parampara as Srila Prabhupada is. He comes in the Sri Sampradaya, which is a completely different parampara, but that is also a bona fide parampara of Vaishnavas. So you can compare that, and then the same sadhus who have given commentaries on the different scriptures, they quote from various other scriptures. Like Srila Prabhupada very regularly quotes from different Upanishads. Now, if you read the commentaries that we are reading now, he's quoting from different scriptures, different Upanishads. He quotes from Vayu Puran, he quotes from Narsimha Puran, he quotes from Vishnu Puran. So you can go and verify, okay, is this mentioned in this scripture or not? So you will see, okay, yes, this is mentioned in the scripture. So that way you can, with this framework, if you apply, then you will be able to understand that okay, a person is a bona fide spiritual master or not. So one is that okay, I may be speaking so many things, whether what I'm saying is correct or not. So you can verify based on this scripture. The other is, if I can become a spiritual master, no, because I don't fulfill those criteria that are mentioned in the Updeshamrit. So there are some criteria that are mentioned in the Updeshamrit. No, I may be speaking the truth, but I am not qualified to become the spiritual master because I don't meet that criteria which is mentioned in the Updeshamrit. So it is very, very objective. If you read that, you will realize that yes, the person should have this characteristic in order to be called as a guru. And if a person does not have this characteristic, then he has no right to be called as a guru. So all those things are there in the scripture. It's just that we have to open our eyes. You don't have to believe in what ISKCON is saying, but at least
No, it's not about believing in ISKCON or not ISKCON. I was just giving an example of some others who, although they are complete devotees of Krishna their entire life,
right.
So even their greeting is Jai Shri Krishna, right?
Right.
But they don't believe in ISKCON.
It is possible, yeah. No, I completely accept that. And there are many falsities that are promoted that, as you said, ISKCON sent
Right.
to America.
Actually, see, the
It is
reason
the
for
other
this,
way.
I know the reason for this. Because I come from Pune, and in Pune, there was Acharya Rajnish's ashram.
Yeah.
And
For sure.
in that ashram, a lot of people misused it for a lot of things.
Right.
And so anything which has a US connection got the same label.
Right.
So one more question. This is slightly different one. So the last 3-4 lines of the purport. Although we do not see his head, face, hands, or legs, he has them. And when we are elevated to the transcendental situation, we can see the Lord's form. Due to materially contaminated senses, we cannot see his form.
Yeah.
So if we cannot see his form in our materially contaminated state, we still worship some form. We don't worship a formless Krishna. So that brings me to the question, isn't that form that we worship affected by our material senses?
No, actually, we
By
don't
what
worship.
we consider as youth and beauty, It's a perception,
No,
right?
no, no. These are the forms that we worship as deity forms are from the scriptural, instructions.
No,
And
no, you're missing the point. I'm not doubting what form has been described. I'm not saying that is inauthentic. What I'm saying is, whoever described the form in the first time, maybe in Bhagavatam, maybe in Bhagavad Gita, there was a concept of what constitutes beauty and what does not constitute beauty, right?
but
So
they did
imagine,
that with transcendental vision, Upendra
no,
Prabhu.
Mataji, please let me complete what I'm trying to ask. So imagine a situation, had Bhagavad Gita been revealed first to someone in Korea versus Bhagavad Gita had it been revealed first to someone in Zambia, right? So the whole form of Krishna in these places would have been drastically different. Maybe in Korea, Krishna may not have ever been shown with a Mayur Pank. The same situation with something in Zambia. Do you understand what I'm trying to come, where I'm coming from? So the form that Krishna has been worshipped, it is affected by our material senses.
In the form that we perceive
Yeah,
Krishna,
in
is
the
what you're
form
saying?
that we see him, perceive him, worship him. In any Vaishnava
Okay.
parampara, Krishna's form is the same. It is maintained the same because it has been described at so many places. But since this is common in all Vaishnava parampara because the origin has been in India. Had this been somewhere else, imagine a situation just like uh, Sri Krishna says, "Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata, abhyuthanam adharmasya tadat manam srujamyaham." So I will take a form wherever I see adharma rising. We interpret that, okay, we possibly think that he is going to come to India. He could come anywhere wherever adharma increases. Now, when he appears at those places in a different form, will the form not be something that those people get inspired by?
Okay, so first of all, the verse that he quoted, Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya Glanir Bhavati Bharata. No, first of all, Krishna says that whenever there is a decline of religious practices, at that time I appear. No,
Right,
he doesn't say that I appear at that place where it has happened. So now Krishna had it is mentioned in the scriptures that Krishna has innumerable incarnations. Innumerable. You can't
right,
even
correct,
count. It is like counting the waves in the sea. That is
right.
the analogy that is
Just
used.
like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is considered a reincarnation of Krishna.
Yeah, but if you the other thing that is mentioned in the scriptures is that all the forms that the Lord is going to take. Now, how do you form that? How do you know whether a person is actually God or not, or an incarnation or not? So, first of all, it is mentioned in the scriptures that yes, there are innumerable forms, there are innumerable incarnations that are there, but all the incarnations that are going to happen, they are directly or indirectly mentioned in the scriptures. So why could Krishna not appear in? No, we have no knowledge about Krishna appearing in Korea. Neither does our Krishna. Our scriptures say that Krishna ever appeared in Korea or in America or in Pakistan. Pakistan still it was part of India, but see, Krishna will not just come for removing adharma. That he can do by just sitting over there and just moving one finger. He can drop a, like some something he can do, like bring a tsunami and just devastate, and he can do all of that. Removing adharma is not a big deal really for him. So something more important for him is, he says paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam. So first thing is paritranaya cha sadhunam. So I come to give pleasure to my devotees. So obviously when he comes to give pleasure to his devotees, paritranaya sadhunam, he will come at a place where there are sadhus. Why would he come at a
So
place where there are?
sadhunam literally means uh, those who are righteous. Sadhu means right, those who are righteous. It need, I mean, they may be his devotees, they may not be his devotees, but they have to be following a
Yeah, but there has to
good
be
path.
there have to be righteous people to do that, right? Now our scriptures explain
For
the way it is.
example, would Krishna not consider a Shiva Bhakta who is actually very righteous in whatever he does? He has not
No,
cheated anyone. He has not
right, right.
stolen.
No,
He
it is
doesn't have
possible.
any of the Shadripus. Would
Exactly.
Krishna not save him?
No, no. The point is that it's not about Shiva Bhakta or Durga Bhakta or Krishna Bhakta. The point is that the scriptures explain that wherever there is Vedic sampradaya, wherever there is the authority of Vedas that is followed, at least the person has to accept that okay, Krishna or Shiva or Durga is God. Now, if you talk about Korea, nobody even accept that there is Krishna who is God. So why would Krishna appear at a place like that? Now, at that time when Krishna had appeared, we may argue that okay, yes, at that time the Vedic culture was there all over the world. Yes, that was there, but Aryavart was there in the place where today's India is. That was called as Aryavart. So that was the most righteous place, and that was the place which was very conducive for Krishna's form to appear. Why would Krishna appear in a culture where there is no regard for him? Where there is not even any acknowledgement of his. When Lord Ram appeared, although Lord Ram did not accept ever that he is divine, he is Vishnu, but all the people who had divine eyes, they whose eyes were anointed with knowledge, jnana chakshu as we call it, they could understand that this is not an ordinary person. No, he is Vishnu himself who is incarnated here. Similarly, when Krishna had come, all the sages had acknowledged that no, this is Krishna, this is a supreme person. So the point is, no, Krishna will not appear at a place where there is no reverence for the Vedic uh, you know tradition. And that is one reason we often people make this point that if why would all the gods appear in India only? Why couldn't they appear in Australia or any other country? So he has to appear at a place where there is Vedic culture which is followed, there is reverence to it, where people want him to come. When we talked about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there is a full pastime that is mentioned at how Advaita Acharya had actually prayed very sincerely for Krishna to appear in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and that is when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually appeared. And similarly, when Krishna himself had to appear, all the demigods had gone and prayed to Lord Vishnu to incarnate on earth because there were so many disturbances that were happening. So, and then it is mentioned that he appeared in a family of devotees. No, he will never appear in a family of demons where everybody is against Krishna. He appeared in a family of devotees because he wanted to give pleasure to the devotees, and he wanted to give them pleasure and accept their service also.
But there are
So
reincarnations where he has not appeared in any family.
no, that is true.
Narsimha
Yeah,
Avatar
right.
is a family-less. I mean, Parshuram Avatar, he has a clear family lineage. Ram Avatar has a family lineage. Krishna Avatar has a family lineage.
But
There
still,
is no family lineage to Narsimha Avatar.
why did Narsimhadev come? He come to protect Prahlad, who was his devotee. So
He
there was a
was
reverence.
So
There
there
was
was reverence
reverence,
in Prahlad, but
right?
equally there was abhorrence or dislike,
Exactly.
total dislike by his
Right. So
father.
therefore, he did not take birth there. He just appeared to give pleasure to Prahlad. He came to protect him. He did whatever was to be done, and then he left. And this is exactly what is talked about in Srimad Bhagavatam, where Pandavas, when actually Narad Muni was, explaining this story to Yudhishthir, and Yudhishthir then suddenly says, "No, how glorious is that Prahlad
Prabhu,
Maharaj."
this verse I was about to say actually. यूयं निर्लोके बत भूरिभागा लोकां पुनाना मुनयाभियन्ति येषां ग्रहान् अवस्थिति साक्षात् गुडं परं ब्रह्म मनुष्यलिङ्गम्. So Prabhu, I was just about to say, you can explain, Prabhu. This is the verse you're talking, right?
No, you go ahead, Mataji, explain it.
Narada Muni continued. So this verse has been explained till by Narada Muni by Yudhishthir Maharaj when Prahlad Maharaj pastime has appeared. So pure devotee definitely feels so humble that they think that they are not in comparison. Even though Yudhishthir Maharaj was almost at the same level as Prahlad Maharaj, so Narada Muni, understanding his mind, has told him, "My dear Maharaj Yudhishthir, all of you, the Pandavas, are extremely fortunate. For the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna lives in your palace, just like a human being. great saintly person know this very well, and therefore they constantly visit this house. So if we want to say, right, we can say that Duryodhana, Krishna was present but he cannot see. So to see the God, we need the love anointed eyes, Premananchunita Bhakti Vilochanena. Otherwise, we cannot see Krishna. That's what I just wanted to make a point to.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji. So that is what I was explaining, that when Narad, so Yudhishthira Maharaj asked this question to Narad Muni, how glorious was that Prahlad, that Narsimhadev himself came and then delivered him. So Narad Muni makes this point there, that no, he came just for a few minutes. No, he came, he killed everybody, whoever was to be killed, and then he delivered Prahlad, and then he left. But he said the same person is sitting in your house. No, he is living with you. No, he is actually roaming around with you. He's going everywhere where he is to be going, where he has to go. So actually, when he has to take birth, when he has to actually associate, then he will come in the family of devotees. He will come where his devotees are there, because he actually relishes their company. He wants to reciprocate with them. So in that sense, Krishna will never appear in a place where there is no reverence. So he can do whatever is needed. So he sends his messengers. As we say, Jesus Christ is the Son of God. So he sent Jesus Christ to give some, at least some good moral conceptions to people who were there at that time. Similarly, he sends Muhammad, but he doesn't come himself. He sends his messengers to those places, but he himself comes at a place where there is reverence for the Vedic culture, where people understand the conception of God, who they understand the identity of God, and they desire to see God. Why would Krishna doesn't have time for such things where he will come for small things.
So
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
wherever
One second, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. So 8:30, the other meeting will start. So we need to close this. So
Okay,
you
Prabhu.
have 4 more minutes. If you can continue. But I'm just letting all know, because if you can't stop this meeting, the Kavacha meeting can't start.
Okay, Prabhuji. I think
So
we
you
can
can
continue
discuss
the
for
discussion.
Yeah, you can discuss 4 more minutes. I'm fine, but just letting you know. Go ahead, Prabhu.
Okay.
Sorry.
So we have a time limit now. Open. Please go ahead. Hello? Hare Krishna, Open, you are still there?
my
Right.
laptop suddenly died, I had forgotten to plug it in.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
All right.
So, forms or avatar or reincarnations of Krishna that are going to happen, are they mentioned already in Srimad Bhagavatam, or
all the it is mentioned in the scriptures that all the incarnations that have to appear, that have appeared in the past and that are yet to appear, they are mentioned in the scriptures. So, and that is how we can know that a particular, like Buddha, how do we know Buddha is an incarnation or not? Because he actually came and rejected the Vedas. No, he says reject Vedas, but yet we say that no, Buddha is an incarnation. He is Vishnu himself. So how do we know Buddha is an incarnation? Because it is mentioned in the scriptures, and that on the basis of the scriptures, we accept Lord Buddha as an incarnation. Although we don't accept his philosophy, because we understand that what he taught was not eternal; it was transitional. It was meant to elevate people from a lower level, to a higher moral standard. So we don't completely accept his teachings, but we do accept Lord Buddha as a person, as the incarnation of Krishna. In fact, it is mentioned that he is one of the Disha avatars. He is one of the most important avatars. So how do we do that? Based on the authority of the scriptures. So any avatar that are not mentioned in the scriptures, we don't generally accept them, that these are, this is an avatar. So, all right, I think we'll have to stop here. We can continue this discussion tomorrow again. Right. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.